Roommate embarrassed. When I was in college, I had this very rude roommate. It was all fine until she left a post-it note on my door calling me disgusting and unsanitary for having a pet in my small dorm. After this, I discovered she was using my garbage bags that I purchased for her own personal trash, and when I confronted her about it, she tried to tell me that she didn't care if it was my property, that since she lived there, she had access to it. This resulted in a screaming match. Then, she stole my flat iron and lied, acting like it never happened. I was so fed up and sick of this B***tch, so I decided she had messed around too much, and it was now time she found out. Our college was a hassle if you were ever locked out. The only way to get in the apartment door was by swiping your keycard, and the only way to lock your dorm door was with a big bulky key. If you ever lost or forgot your keycard or key, you'd have to call the office and ask for someone to let you in. But the kicker was, there were only 4 hours a day where the staff would open your door if you were locked out, a policy enforced very strictly, called lockout hours as a way to make sure staff weren't opening doors all day long. Since I lived in the same apartment as her, I knew that she would always get dressed in her room and left everything in there, including her phone when she showered. I waited until a day when no one else was home and purposefully stood in the common area. As predicted, she went to shower with nothing but her caddy and towel. While she was showering, I snuck and locked the door to her room, closing it slowly so she wouldn't hear. I checked to make sure it was locked and walked back to the common area, got comfortable and waited. It was like a movie. She came out and pulled the handle quickly out of habit, only to bump into it and ricochet back. When she realized her door was locked, she started panicking. She saw me and came over, all desperate and frustrated with her freaking tail between her legs. She practically begged me, "Can I use your phone to call the office? I'm locked out. Please." I looked up at her with an ever so futile attempt to hide my smile, leaned forward, and looked her straight in the eye. Nope. I saw the panic in her eyes. "Please. I'm naked. I'll have to walk all the way downstairs in my towel. I don't even have my slippers." Icing on the cake. I repeated with the sweetest satisfaction. "Nope. Did I mention it was the end of the lockout hour, and there wouldn't be another one for 6 hours? Wahahaha." She was devastated. She stood there for a couple of minutes, I assume, hoping I would change my mind. I'm not a completely shitty person, so I almost did, but then I remembered all the shit she pulled and stood my ground. Eventually, she went downstairs in her towel and shower cap, barefoot. After about 45 minutes, she came back with a staff member who opened the door despite it not being lockout hours due to the situation of her being naked and all, but she was humiliated. The staff member flashed me a WTF look, but I didn't frickin' care. Revenge was sweet, and I had just had the fattest slice. She never bothered me again. For a 1K with a side of revenge. Someone suggested I post the story over here. Enjoy. When our first child was born, my ex forced me to quit my job. When our second child was 2, I found out about his affair. By then, he was extremely verbally, emotionally, and sometimes physically abusive. When he abused our firstborn, I put him out. That was in 2012. I couldn't afford daycare to work and had no family support. He refused to give me any money to take care of the kids, saying, "The courts haven't ordered me to give you a dime." He lied to the bank and had my accounts frozen, and even assaulted me when I filed for default in the divorce. The judge finally ordered him to pay child and spousal support 6 months after I kicked him out. It was $2,562 a month. He refused to pay it until the garnishment kicked in, and by then, he was $6K behind in support. I used that to get permission to move away. I remarried a year after the divorce. I checked the court docs, and there was a little box that said spousal support stopped upon remarriage if that box was checked. It wasn't checked, so I figured I was good. Instead of filing for his retirement, I just took that year of spousal support, $12K, and left it alone. Spousal support was only ordered for 2 years. In 2017, he filed for sole custody of the kids out of nowhere. That was when he found out I had remarried, and he had paid spousal support to me during the first year of my marriage. I told him I took that money instead of filing for my share of his retirement. I said if he let me keep that $12K, I wouldn't file to split his 401K. He demanded that I repay the spousal support. The judge ordered me to repay it but increased child support and deducted the repayment from that. It ended up that I got an extra 20.00 a month, and he repaid himself. He dropped his bid for custody in exchange for 2 extra weeks in summer. I pursued the retirement account split. He refused to cooperate and dragged it out for 4 years. It was so bad, they sanctioned him, and he had to pay me $600 a month for a year in addition to child support. They also charged him with contempt. In January 2021, he proposed to his girlfriend. In May of 2021, I finally got the disbursement from his 401k. I won't say how much it was, but it was about 4 times the amount of spousal support overpayment. I had no idea it would be that much. I had thought it would be around 12k, which is why I thought keeping that year of spousal and not filing for his retirement account was a fair trade. Had he not tried to take the kids from me, I never would have filed to split the account. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. His fiancée emailed me recently and told me it is my fault he won't marry her because I cleaned out his retirement account. She said I shouldn't have stolen his money. I told her that I gave him the option to let me keep that year of spousal support or take it back, and I could file for his retirement. He chose to have me file for his retirement. I told her that if he really wanted to marry her and protect his assets, they could get a prenup, so he wouldn't have to worry about it. She said she shouldn't have to sign a prenup because I robbed him. I never asked to be financially dependent on him. He clearly indicated he wanted a court order to take care of his kids, so I got him one. I tried to be fair and take the lesser amount by taking the spousal support and not filing for his retirement. He wouldn't let me. In summary, my ex refused to pay me until support orders dropped, refused to pay until they revoked his license, tried to get me in trouble for accepting spousal support overpayment, and in the end it cost him a lot of money out of his 401k.
My GF and I went to a church barbecue to flex on my ex. A little backstory. My 42M, ex-wife, 44F, and I were married for almost 20 years. Over that time, she had 4 affairs of varying degrees, including a sexual relationship with a very close friend of mine from our church. I tried to make it work, and after the last emotional affair, I couldn't do it anymore. I filed for divorce just over 2 years ago. We are still going through the divorce, and she's been high conflict the whole time. She's painted herself as a victim, and I go a new church but still have some friends at my old one. I attended there for over 30 years. My petty revenge. My girlfriend and I have been dating since January. She's aware of my situation and we are having fun. I have older kids and she has younger kids. For Labor Day, we both had the day off and wanted to do something fun. I mentioned that my old church does a picnic every year at a park. There are games and activities for the kids and a big potluck barbecue. I told her my ex would be there, but it's a big event and we could keep to ourselves. I'd also be able to introduce my GF to friends from my old church. My GF made sure she was extra cute. We had matching socks and I wore a shirt that said, "Built for Conflict," on the back. We got to the barbecue. My GF made a dessert to share and I was grilling. My ex saw us and looked beside herself. She eventually came over and tapped my GF on the shoulder and said, "I'm X's name. I'm my name's wife." My GF said, "Nice to meet you," and held out her hand to shake my ex's. My ex then said, "It's awkward for you to be here, and I hope you feel that way." My GF responded, "Okay," and my ex walked off. Later my ex approached me and said, "This isn't your church anymore. I think you should leave." I said, "Not gonna happen," and kept walking. She went back to her friends, my old friends, and was just distraught. She eventually asked the pastor to ask me to leave. He's my best friend and was the best man at my wedding. He came and talked to me so he could tell her he did. I told him she needed to grow up and I wasn't leaving. He went back to my ex and she was unhinged trying to say we had to leave. She tried to make it some spiritual thing. Eventually she gave up and went to the friend she had an affair with and his wife to be comforted. They are still friends. I didn't get it. My GF and I just watched and laughed. My ex has been terrible this whole time and whatever control or narrative she had was destroyed. Everyone watched as she just acted like a witch and we smiled and waved. In the end, the kids had fun, we got to catch up with old friends, and my ex-wife got put in her place. It was a good day. Side note, My GF is stunning, and several people just stopped with a dumbfounded look on their face when they saw her. Was such a flex to people who want to see me fail. You want to try to take 9-inch of our property? We will take 20-inch of yours. We have lived in our house for about 8 years in a rural neighborhood in Arizona. About a year ago, this dude from California bought the lot next to us and threw a fit about the stuff we had on the property line. We had put a single fence pole vaguely where the property line was. We hadn't had any sort of land survey done. It was supposed to just be a temporary marker that became a permanent marker. Dude was absolutely livid that we had vehicles parked on his property. The very tip of one of our cars was touching the established boundary. He threatened to have our vehicle towed. So we simply had an actual land survey done, and it turned out the property line was a good 20-inch into his property. Homeboys should have just let sleeping dogs lie and not been an asshole about a few inches. You break all my crayons? Fine. When I was in kindergarten in a rural elementary school, our class was split into 2 sections. My desk was used by another student on the days I wasn't there. I'll call him Leo. I had an art supply box with all my colored pencils, crayons, scissors, etc. One day I opened this box to find that all of the crayons were broken in half and that Leo no longer had any crayons. He had clearly been using my crayons and intentionally breaking them. The very moment I noticed, I vowed to never let him touch a crayon of mine again. I began packing my whole box of supplies and bringing it home with me. I felt really petty. Fast forward to the next time he needs my stuff, it's not there. I later learned that he had to go ask the teacher to borrow crayons, as we didn't have the box of crayons that seemed to live in every classroom at my school. She asked him if he could borrow mine, since we share a desk, and had to admit he broke all of mine, so I didn't let him touch my crayons anymore. Sweet justice for our fallen crayons. He's one of my best friends now.
Thank you so much for watching the video. For more video like this, please subscribe.